All right, you bunch of yahoos, strap yourselves in for another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity.
In other words, shut up, sit up, and pay attention.
Here we go, and welcome back to another episode of Toxic Masculinity. Normally, I would be introducing that other dastardly, handsome mustachio man, Don the Predator Fry, but Don is running just a little bit behind. But we actually have another gentleman that stepped right in there, Tony Martinez, and he's got facial hair, he's got a goatee, so he's good to go. So, you know, we're in good position here. So here we go. And our guest today is, there we go, is none other than Jacob Duran. Joining us today, he has a career deeply rooted in the professional boxing and UFC and many other combat sports. Jacob is renowned for his invaluable role as a cutman, having worked with some of the most celebrated fighters in the sport. And also has been in numerous movies playing himself. Let's dive right into art and science, explaining the cutman and explore Jacob's extensive career. Now, first off, I didn't even know your first name was Jacob. I always simply knew you as Stitch.
It's funny you say that. What's going on, man? What's up, Tony? When I was filming the Creed movie with Michael B. Jordan, now this is my third movie with him, right? Well, they're filming a documentary on my life, and they interviewed Michael, and they sent me the clip, and Michael is saying, Stitch is wrapping my hands. This is my third movie with him. Stitch is wrapping my hands, and all of a sudden he says, Michael, do you know my real name? He says, Stitch. I said, no. Do you know my real name? He says, I don't. But there's a lot of people that don't know my real name is Jacob. But the world knows me as Stitch. It's crazy, huh?
When did that nickname get stuck to you, or did you make it up at some point in time? More?
No, you never give yourself your own nickname. It's always given to you, right? Well, you remember, and this is Dennis Alexio. I used to have a school of kickboxing, and I used to work with Dennis Alexio. At this time, was the kickboxing champ, light heavyweight, heavyweight, cruiserweight, heavyweight, just a badass boy. Well, I was one of his sparring partners, Dave Rooney. We had some shows, and I was starting to make that transition into being a cut man. I was a trainer and had to learn everything, but Dave Rooney got a cut, and knowing now what I know now, I used to see these old boxing cut men only. At this time, it was only boxing. They would cut tape and get little strips and then butterfly it. So I did that to Dave Rooney, and he says, man, I don't have to go to the hospital. You save me some stitches, I'll call you Stitch. And that's where that name came from. And Dave Rooney, last thing I heard, he was a fisherman in Alaska. And Dan, I don't know if he really knows how much he changed my name.
Well, like I said, as far as I know, I thought that was your name. I kept thinking, well, he might have had another name, but maybe just simply changed over because the world knows him as Stitch right now.
Yeah, so Stitch, yeah.
And you said you first started off in the realm of boxing. Was your first profession that you started with as a cut man?
No, I started off in kickboxing.
Kickboxing.
I was in 1972. I joined the Air Force, and in 1974 they stationed me in a place called Thailand, and I didn't know what Thailand was, and I had some friends that were there 3 months before me, and they already acclimated, and they invited me downtown to Banchan to see some fights. And being Mexican, then I thought it was boxing. Shit, this guy throws a kick, knocks a guy out, and I said, I'm in. So that year I trained. It was Taekwondo for the GIs, but then the Koreans left, and the Thais transitioned us. So we had both Taekwondo and Thai styles type of techniques. And when I got back to the States, I got into boxing just to improve my hands and open up a school of kickboxing and learn to do everything, trainer and cutman and promoted fights and everything. IKF, Steve Fosrum, I did his first show.
IKF, I'm definitely very familiar with them because even when the UFC was going through its infancy, state by state, different athletic commissions, there was nothing that covered mixed martial arts.
Right.
And so I went under these different umbrellas, and a lot of it would fall underneath kickboxing because kickboxing had been around so much longer. It's kind of like going, well, it's kind of like kickboxing, but there's going to be a little bit of grappling in here and just a little bit kind of a hybrid type of thing. But then it's kind of tough because we were using actually a professional wrestling ring.
Yeah.
But I actually I ended up putting on extra stays in there, but I'd have the two, I'd have the judges that have the three judges positioned in different parts, but then I always had another gentleman that was always sitting at the table with the judges, and then on the one blank side, even one other person sitting there, because those were they were security, but they were to keep the competitors inside the ring and not falling out or slipping between the ropes, because you could hit those ropes, and even if you got the stays onto it, you could simply slip and fall through. And their whole job was keep the competitors inside that ring, and it came in handy on a number of occasions. And Stitch, I come from no background whatsoever from the fight game, but to me, I did a lot of common sense type of things that I never saw there before. Even in the no holds barred, when there's no holds barred on a professional level, I let them do all the rules that pertain to no holds barred, which was, I mean, pretty much carte blanche.
Yeah.
But when it came to amateur level, I would simply ask people, I'd say, like, well, Stitch, I go, how many matches have you had so far? But if you had like under 5, I would say that the only thing I would try to match with someone that had less than 5 matches. But the rule would then be is that because you're such newbies to the sport, the only thing I want to touch the head, which I always refer to as the pumpkin, I go, the only thing that touches the pumpkin is the hand. Whether it's a punch, spinning back fist, hammer strike, whatever you want to do, any way that you hit the head with the hand, that's good to go. But then it's like, now when you're in that 6 to 10 range, standing head kicks, because I know that's not an easy thing to do. So I was trying to progress the athletes along in the safest manner I possibly could, knowing that now they're at 11 plus matches. Now they're understanding a little bit more, into where, again, opens up more and more realms of danger. The last thing I would ever give them was that knee to the head, because I know that the leg is such a big, powerful weapon. That was the last tool I would ever give them, is a knee to the head. I allowed elbows was probably next, and then knee to the head, but no.
That's a good point. But yeah, you were one of the pioneers hey, I'm glad I'm old, but I'm glad I never met you, because, you were definitely throwing down. But when it came to the health and safety of the fighters, I agree. Jay, the bloodiest fight I ever worked was Jay Haran when he fought Jonathan Goulet. He took a knee and he severed that big vein we have, and he bled like a pig, right? But that one, and even ground and pound. When a guy gets knocked down and he's unconscious, there's no reason to come down with an elbow on him.
Yes.
Now you're looking at long-term damage, injuries.
Yes.
And those are things that the game has to progress. And you were already thinking about it just by getting the amateurs separating them. So congratulations to you.
No, well, again, you brought up an excellent point, because one of the things that I really despise about the sport is it's called MMA, which stands for mixed martial arts. But what I don't like seeing, which was just what you described, you punched me and literally you knocked me out.
Yeah.
As I fall backwards, my head hits that canvas harder than you probably hit me to knock me out. As I hit there, I'm unconscious. But then that MMA fighter jumps right down, and he will hit you 2, 3, 5 or more times before the referee stops him. And to me, it's like thinking, what kind of damage is occurring in those additional strikes as you're limp and lifeless right there, and they're just raining blow after blow. And that's where a lot of the referees are not skilled. Most of those referees have never been in a MMA match in the first place.
Yeah, but that's common sense, that if the guy is knocked out, he's knocked out. And you as a fighter, as a sportsman, should realize that when you're coming down with that elbow, that he's already out. When Dan Henderson knocked out Michael Bisping, I'm working with Bisping, right? And it's happened with the fighters, but this is the response when these guys get knocked out like that, Dan, is Bisping's asking me, what happened? I said, you got knocked out. Well, what happened? Oh, you got knocked out. And then I said, Mike, look at me. And eye to eye, I said, you got knocked out. But I understand, because their brains have to reboot.
Yeah, process.
Yeah. Krokop, when he got knocked out by Gabe Gonzaga, he's like this. His whole body just locked up. So, safety is that's a big stress that I.
Yeah, no, it's well, again, that you actually that last one you just mentioned about that match right there, that was, that was very, very rare too, because he was so good at knocking people out with those head kicks, and then all of a sudden, then to be you live by the sword and you die by the sword. Well, yeah, he was taking out the same way. It's like going, wow, I just thought he was just so vicious with all those head kicks.
And here's a point to that one now on the educational point is the doctor had tried to take the mouthpiece out. And see, in Nevada, the doctors are the best. Tony Martin, I think was his name. That had happened to him. He just locked up. And so I had seen it before. And the doctor says, leave the mouthpiece in because he's still, as long as he's making that noise, he's breathing. And his body has to reboot, but you don't want to go in there trying to take something out because he just might bite your fingers off.
Yeah, he's still biting down. He's clinching on because he's not.
So I mean, you've been there, you've done that to people. So.
Well, I'll simply say that, towards the end of my career, I got knocked out once in my entire career. It was towards the end of my career, and I was kind of just like a journeyman. That's really all I was. I had a lot of promoters that simply just liked me because they knew they didn't have to worry about me. I would be there. I'd be on time, and I would kill all the different fans with, cordial, being nice, answer the questions and stuff like that. Well, he ended up getting caught into a hard place where the first opponent he had for me bailed out like less than 24 hours before. And he calls me up, he goes in a panic, and he's offered me up a new opponent. And he goes, well, what do you think? And again, I've ran shows before. I've been in that position. And I'm like going, I'm trying to help him out. I go, is this a good match for me? No. What you just described is Dan Severn 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I go, you got a 50-year-old guy out there, 50 plus years of age, get ready to go against this 30-year-old. And I'm thinking, the math is not going to be real good right now. I know the position you've been in. I go, against my better judgment, I'll take the match, hoping that I can get to a clinch, hoping I can get to it. It's like, it didn't work out the way I was hoping for. Yeah. Again, I'll just be happy that he did when he literally knocked me out on my feet and I went down. He went down. He struck me 2 more times and then just stopped to look at the referee. He goes, come on, you got to stop this match. I'm thinking, thank goodness he did this because he could have pulverized me another 3-4 shots easily.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we're having this conversation because, like I say, health and safety has always been my number one issue, and dementia is always the thing I look at. But just talking to you, man, you're one of these blessed people that have been in battles and still mentally are still capable of speaking to me,
Well, I say that all the time, that I always tell people I try to use my mindset because I was never the striker aspect. I go, I said most people probably laugh when they try to see me throw my jabs or throwing some type of shots of it that because I sucked. I simply sucked at it. But my whole theory was, if you're the striker, you have to be within arm's reach to punch, legs range to kick, knee, elbow. And I kept thinking, stay a little bit out of range as they throw them up. When they come back under it, move right in. Go for a standing clinch, go for a takedown, or simply jam them up against the cage wall. But once I do one of those 3 things, I've neutralized 90% of their arsenal because very few athletes know how to strike from a clinch position. I was during the Noah's Bark era, I was teaching how to punch from a clinch position, how to use your shoulder, how to come underneath it, to jaw jack to where you simply come up, make them bite the side of their mouth, or something of that nature where literally their eyes will start to water up and things of that nature. But you also can punch forward to where you can punch them in the nose, you can punch them in the eye. Again, just depends on your height versus their height. Can I get underneath them? Can I get up a little bit higher? Can I do things? And it kind of surprised me because the day that Conor McGregor fought Cowboy Cerrone and he punches him with the shoulder, my cell phone exploded. All these people are like, did Conor McGregor finally take a seminar for you? I go, no. I said, if he would have followed up with this. He goes, and they're like, oh yeah, you're right. He sucks and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's kind of comical what they said to me, but I'm thinking, I've been teaching that for 20 some odd years. So it's like going, you've been there, but my forte was, I always tell people I was a one-trick pony, but I was a pretty good one-trick pony. So,
and that's a good point. It's good to know that you brought this knowledge years and years ago, because when I first started seeing the original UFC, really the only rules there were no rules, right? And grappling and this type of technique for a lot of guys, just they didn't know how to do it, and just simple things like a shoulder. that makes a whole lot of sense. I work with Josh Barnett, and he knows a whole lot of these. Eric, I work with Eric Paulson. These guys were great at what they did with those little movements. And for you to bring that up and to mention that to me, we used to go to Tokyo with Josh. Bill Robinson was the original catch wrestler, right?
Yeah.
Bro, he had some moves, because I'm a martial artist, but I'm not a grappler. Know nothing about that. But I know that what he did and what you guys do is top of the line.
Yeah, no, when I was first going over to Japan, I was working for a company that did kind of what they referred to as a strong style. It was actually a professional wrestling company, and they were all predetermined type of matches, but they still wanted to simply make it look like it was the real deal. And their whole thing was, if you don't feel it, I mean, they advise you to wear shin pads and stuff like this, but they would throw in some pretty hard leg kicks where, I mean, it welted me up there pretty good. But it was a very strong sell. But that's when we ended up meeting both Billy Robinson and oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank here right now. But that's where I ended up meeting him and just one other gentleman that they were just phenomenal catch wrestlers is what they were. They were from the world of professional wrestling, but they were also that old style of catch wrestling to where they knew how to disable people as well. They could easily take you in and break a limb real quick on you. So there used to be that era of professional wrestling that the champ would be out in the ring, and the announcer would simply say, any man, woman, or child that could step in this ring and last 5 minutes with the champ gets $10,000. That actually was legit. That was a shoot. Knowing that whatever poor soul climbed into that ring, the champ was going to put down hard and fast. And now when Billy Bob goes back up in the crowd thinks, well, all this has to be legit because look what happened to one of our own. And that was the old scenario of how professional wrestling kind of got over. And Luthez, that was the other name I was trying to think of. Luthez and Billy Robinson. So they were, two great individuals that were, they both had those gnarled up looking cauliflower ears. That they've been in a lot of matches. Yeah, a lot of matches.
We talk about, Antonio Inoki, right?
Yes.
So I would go with Josh to Bombaye. And there, I remember I worked with Lyoto Machida fought Rich Franklin. First time I ever worked with Machida. And I knew nothing about Inoki slapping people. But during the intermission, these people would line up and he would slap them. And, and he slapped. Lyoto Machida's by me, standing by me, and he gets it. He just slaps the shit out of him. I get my bags in my bucket and I leave, But I didn't know that was a badge of honor that he was giving to. He would do it for people in the audience.
Yeah, and again, but all kinds, all ages too. I mean, older people, stuff like that. I'm thinking, man, I tell you, I don't want to be in that line either. To take a big open palm shot, because I used to tell people that I used to do a lot of open palm shots because as I'm delivering in here, I'm looking to aim with that big meaty portion of that palm right there. People are like going, what's he doing slapping him? I go, no. Bare knuckle, I could easily break a knuckle or something like that. So I just simply opted for doing open palm shots anywhere around the temple jawline. But even then, a lot of times I would cut my hand and I would hit them right on top of the ear, looking to perforate the inner eardrum to where now I'm trying to destroy their equilibrium, their sense of balance. Yes.
Yeah. And this is what I tell people. You're bringing these stories up, and I said, I'm the guy when we start wrapping their hands, it's like the old gladiator days, and these guys are modern day gladiators. And as I'm wrapping their hands, that's like putting armor on them before they go out to the arena and they fight for life. And that's why I have so much respect for all you guys that get in the ring and throw blows, because it's a hell of a business, bro.
Well, yes, it is. Well, just like as you said before, you like the fact that I'm cognitive. I didn't take that many shots at head. I always tell people I was a one-trick pony, knowing that I want to get in, do my thing, and then I'm gonna get out of it because I don't want to stay too long to where now I start taking damage. I don't want to be one of those athletes that I need the money, I need this, I need that. Because there's just a lot of athletes that, whether it's from the boxing world, whether it's from the professional world, whether it's from the MMA world, they find this newfound wealth, but they don't know how to manage it, or you could have someone like Mike Tyson. I mean, literally, he's had millions and millions of dollars run through his hands, but he did not know how to manage his money. I'm not trying to pick on Mike, but that it doesn't matter what the sport is. You can see the same thing about football players, basketball players, any sport industry, because a lot of people came from not exactly the most educated backgrounds, and they did not know how to monitor. And all of a sudden, they got this windfall of money. Now they want to drive that fancy car. They want that fancy house. They don't realize there's income taxes on this. And I remember the first time in UFC, it was in December, and I ended up winning like the ultimate, and I won 150,000. And here, 3 months later, I'm cutting a check to the IRS for almost half of it. I'm thinking, son of a gun, these guys robbed me. They didn't even have to step into the ring, and here they're taking half of this right now on me. I'm thinking, wow.
And it's funny you bring this up, and you're 100% right. But about 23 years ago, me and this young filmmaker just graduated from American Film Institute, did a documentary called Boxer's Nightmare, and it deals with all the stuff that fighters go through. But Mike Tyson was one of the guys. And Mike says, look at me. He goes, I got ripped off over $100 million. And what do you tell your family? What do you tell your wife? He goes, that's what makes a fighter punch drunk. But even fights, because I'm doing a lot of boxing, these guys with the gold chains and diamonds and all that. Shakur Stevenson that fought last weekend says, I bought like $80,000 worth of jewelry, but then I thought I just devalued it. So I'm not gonna, but it's education. Nobody has really educated you guys on how to spend them. You're talking about the IRS. Yeah, and if you don't pay the IRS off that $150,000, you'll always be doing, my man, what's up?
How you doing, partner?
Yeah.
I apologize. Man. Everything could have went wrong today went wrong.
Love it, man. Good seeing you, bro.
Nice seeing you, brother. Man,
I screwed up yesterday. I guess we could blame it on age, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to blame it on somebody else all the time, like a woman.
I love it.
No accountability,
Yeah.
Now, well, again, just on that same note there, I mean, even when you think about boxing, and you had people like a Don King, he was quite the promoter. He'd be like, trying to go to like Muhammad Ali or something like that. Just sign the contract. I'll fill in the rest of the blanks right now on the things. It's
and unfortunately, it still happens now. We're talking about fighters, making all this money and not knowing what to do with it, but it happens even now. Where fighters don't understand. And I put a video out. I always try to educate, but in this documentary that we put, the facts are that the maximum a manager could take from a fighter is 33 1/3%. We all know that, except for the fighter. And it's negotiable anywhere from 1 to 33 1/3%. So the story goes, if I pay you every month to keep you in the gym, to keep you living, and I'll make my money off you down the road, then 33 1/3% is ideal. But if all you're making a phone call, you should be getting 10, maximum 15% as an agent. Am I right or wrong?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
I think you should be making 10% for making a fucking phone call.
Well, 10%. Yeah, I'm just saying 50% would be nice, but 10% is all.
No, I mean, you shouldn't make that much for just making a phone call if you're not doing any negotiating or anything. I mean, because I had a couple of scumbags, they just accepted whatever the Japanese thrown at me, and I didn't know that, but they didn't do any negotiating, they just said, okay, he'll take it. I was like, well, fuck, I could do that and save myself.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's what I do. I'm not laughing, but you're 100% right, because I negotiate my own self. I'm not stupid. I know what value I bring to the table, and whatever you're looking for. If I could, let's talk about it. So, but in boxing, because when I did this documentary years ago, I did a bunch of surveys, but a majority of the guys in boxing have less than a high school diploma. In MMA or in wrestling, it's a little different because a lot of these guys are college educated or have gone to college to wrestle. Mm-hmm. So the educational level is different.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys in boxing, they only had elementary school education. They were getting D's at that, So they weren't showing up for one thing. If they did show up, they were getting in fights. That's how they found out they were good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I like the analogy, but very simple.
Yeah, well, again, there's one of the most recent polls that was taken. It kind of reconfirms what you just said there, Stitch. That when you look at how many amateur wrestlers that have now crossed over into the mixed martial arts industry, they look upon it really right now as that's one of the best foundations that you can work from. Knowing you still need to learn something about submission, you still need to learn something about striking in that. But if you're a high level wrestler, you still have that motivation, you still have that drive, and you'll work hard at it to know that you can do strikes. And nature. You've got um, who's the 150 pounder right now that he gets the most bonuses for fight of the night from northern Arizona.
Who's the kid from northern Arizona?
Yeah, from northern Arizona. I mean, we've had him on before. I'm just drawing a blank right now. That
Gagey, yeah.
Gagey,
Gagey.
I just got back.
Are you paying attention to what we're doing here?
I wasn't even sitting
God
down.
damn, habla inglés.
I didn't have my headset on. I just sat down in Northern Arizona.
Gotta watch out. Sometimes Don, I don't know if he's taking his Geritol or if he's got Viagra. I know that he's taking it for
I wasn't sitting here with my headset on.
But no, Justin Gagey, he's got a phenomenal amateur wrestling background, but he likes to bang and just step straight in and bangs away. Now, he doesn't bang quite the same way that Don. I mean, I think Don probably has probably half a dozen fights where he's stepped right in there and has done more banging away than anybody there at times.
All those fights in the stupid column, yeah.
Even the number of most people is him versus Takayama, and I remember I didn't see it that night, but it was like a few days later I finally saw that match, and I remember I had to call Don, and I'm like going, Don, I'm getting out of his case. I'm like, Don, exactly what was going through your mind other than Takayama's fist? Okay, I said that's not the way to win matches because they're literally they got a collar tie on each other and they're just punch each other in the face for like 45 seconds, and it was like a rock'em sock'em robots. And it's like a test of wills. It's kind of like going, I'm punching you in the face. Are you going to quit? And the other guy's like, no, I'm going to keep punching you in the face until you quit. Who won? The crowd, because they witnessed something that they'll never, ever see again. So it's going, wow, those are matches that yours truly doesn't want to ever be in there. It's kind of like, but I want to try to keep this. I try to keep the moneymaker here. Right, I'm looking for a career in movies.
And it's funny you bring that fight up. Of course, that's the one we all look at. But then, me being a cut man, I always try to look into the mind of a fighter. And at that position, because I remember I interviewed Mike Tyson years ago, and I said, Mike, every fighter has that one little thing that nobody has. What's that one little thing? And very simply, he says, take the pain. You have to take the pain. And as I look at this, especially here with Don, they're banging the crap out of each other. And what's going through your head at that moment, because you're not going to stop. He's not going to stop. The pain is probably not even there anymore. But what goes through those moments?
Right. Again, that's just wow. Yeah, I've known Don for a number of years, so I simply knew that he is that guy that he will punish his body to get the victory. He was just that type of a wrestler there as well. So
but those were the golden eras.
Yeah, it's in the stupid column, like I said.
Well, no. Again, when you look at that's the most viewed fight, but when you throw in half a dozen others of those, that you've been involved in against Tank and Ken Shamrock and a few others, is like going, nobody else comes close in that category of just rock 'em, sock 'em,
I don't know, Gagey doesn't close. He's the close.
When you were talking about Gagey, I remember, I think before he was a UFC, PFL, one of those. We did a show in Arizona. He fought Carlos Palomino. Carlos, whatever his name is. They went at it. First time I ever saw Jason fight, they went at it toe to toe, bro. And I could never forget that. And he's been like that ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He earns his money, that's for damn sure.
Yeah.
He doesn't cheat. He does not cheat the crowd, man. Never.
Yeah.
You know,
And it was kind of funny because we did do, I think when we did the interview, it was kind of funny because he was a poor wrestler way back then in the very beginning. And now he's got like a chef that comes in, cooks his meals and stuff like that. It's like, oh, wow, times have changed.
yeah. So much for the cheap hamburger, you know, at
Yeah.
the grocery
The
store.
potato,
You know?
the potato, the broccoli.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Those days are done. Now you got chefs and everybody.
The 98 cents ramen deal.
Oh, I'm gonna say those are the amateur wrestling days, back in college there. That when you look in the cupboard and all you got is a can of tuna fish and some ramen noodles, and that's dinner right there, baby. Because you got to still make weight on top of all that.
But that's a good point because I love going to the gyms. I mean, I live here in Vegas, so my weekends I'm doing shows, but Monday through Wednesday I go do gym runs like we're doing here. But everybody in that gym has one goal, and that's to become a world champion. And they've all gone through these steps of top ramen or just drinking water, So the sacrifices, and that's why I have so much respect for you guys, because the sacrifices mentally and physically that you guys do for a sport that the object of the game is to render somebody unconscious is unbelievable. And so much respect for everybody.
Yeah.
Is there like just one gym in particular that you go to, or is there like a whole slew of them?
Yeah, I go to Randy Couture's gym, and but I do Mayweather's gym and Bones Adams and the boxing gyms for the most part. I'm doing a lot of boxing now, and so but I just go hang out,
Well, I know, like at Randy Couture's place. I mean, last I knew, he had a son that was actually like managing it and kind of running it for Randy, because Randy was still doing a lot of movies and doing other things. And then whenever Randy was in town, he would go there and make his appearances and would run some class at that time. But for the most part, I thought it was his son that was kind of running that facility for him.
Yeah, Ryan Couture. I worked with him as a fighter, and but he runs the gym. And as a matter of fact, that bloodiest fight I was telling you about with Jay Iran, that ring mat is up in Randy's gym. The bloodiest fight I ever worked. I was down Jay Haran fought Jonathan Goulet and took a knee and severed that big vein we have coming down. He bled like a pig from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. So much blood, I got nauseated.
Yeah, you did.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was that much blood. And
I like Jay. Jay's a good guy, man.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So that mat is up on the wall in Randy's gym, and that's Jay's claim to fame with me.
Wow.
Again, I did not see that match, but I mean, did they have to eventually stop it because they could stop the bleeding, or what?
It's funny because the doctor, I mean, I'm cleaning them up, and even Jonathan Goulet's full of blood, so but I'm cleaning up and this and that, and the doctor says, well, Stitch, what do you think? Can you stop it? I said, yeah, no problem. And there's a mixture of adrenaline. There's a mixture of adrenaline and Vaseline that I'll put at the final topical. And as I covered the cut was about this. Well, the cut was about this big, but the vein popped, and I covered it, and the blood just went right through it. And you can't stop those kind of fights. You get that kind of cut. You just can't.
No, not unless they give you a couple minutes to stitch them.
Even that won't work. But we're talking about Japan, and I was doing a lot of Bombaye with Antonio Inoki with Josh Barnett, but there's one Japanese guy, I guess it was wrestling, where they cut each other. Right. Man, I guess he cut that vein because I go to the back of the dressing room and they couldn't stop the bleeding, so they called me to see if I could go and work on him. And of course, I put the medication on him and all that, but there was blood all over the floor.
Yeah, no, that's
a little too much.
Yeah. Well, one of the first times I was actually in a match, and my opponent was pulling out. They referred to it as the little gig that they're going to use, this little piece of razor blade and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, and this over in Japan, and literally I've got him down, so I'm actually kind of covering up on it. But I'm right there, I'm watching him, and literally it almost looks like he's playing tic-tac-toe on his forehead. He cut his forehead so many different directions, because usually, because I talked to some of the more senior professional wrestlers, they said you want to always cut it, in the normal aging lines of your face so that they'll blend them in later in life. But here he's literally, this guy's doing like tic-tac-toe on his forehead, and it was literally nauseating me. I'm thinking, God, stop. Here, I'm like going,
you ever meet Dusty Rhodes?
Oh no, I've seen his forehead there before,
Yeah.
but I think even worse is probably Abdullah the Butcher.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah, I mean he's got so much scar tissue. It looks like a baby's butt on
Wow.
there. I mean, to the point that his trademark is bringing out a fork, but
Yeah.
he'll as something he gigs you with, but he'll stick that same fork right in the crack of the butt on his forehead, and it will stick. And he'll start doing this kind of stuff to the crowd, and I mean it's part of his show, but
Wow.
it was still pretty amazing there just to watch that. Sticking his fork in the crack of the butt of scar tissue on his forehead. But
Yeah,
he
they
had
found
so
out.
much scar tissue, he had to do it like that.
Yeah, they found out he had hepatitis B. I think it was C or B. You know, and he
Well,
didn't know about for a decade. You know, so
yeah, well, yeah. Well, again, that was one thing that I was telling Stitch a little bit earlier that when going from state to state, the MMA and NHB was changing all the time. That more and more athletic commissions, professional wrestling. Again, there's a lot of states that don't regulate professional wrestling because they're like going, well, they don't look upon it as sport. But the reality is, they should still regulate it because a lot of these guys are not in very good physical shape. So I think that a standard physical should be had, but then also blood test because a lot of times there is gigging of the forehead and you just don't know who is clean and who is not.
right.
And you'd rather know that you're working with someone that did pass at least a basic physical and a blood test for HIV, Hep B, Hep C.
Oh,
Well,
that should, that should be automatic with any kind of contact sport where you're dealing with the transfer of blood,
Yeah.
and especially in this type of sport. But, let me ask you guys, because, I've dealt with a lot of MMA guys, I've dealt with a lot of boxers, but I've never dealt with a lot of veteran guys when it comes to long-term injuries. So I guess, Don, how's the body? Is the knees, the back,
it
what,
hates
what
me.
hurts?
It hates me tremendously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's revolting. I mean, I've had like 17 to 20 back surgeries because majority of them are infections because you get an infection and it just reoccurring. So I picked up what is it? It's a staph infection in the hospital, and it stays with you, forever. And it just whenever it
Yeah.
decides to come out. I mean, back in 2018, 18 or 19, I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital,
19.
um, fuck, 6 or 7 times, anywhere from 1 week to a month, So, and this year we're in now, knock on wood, you know, I haven't been in the hospital, I haven't been in last year I was in there for about the same as 2019,
Yeah, that knee infection was
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, that was nasty. Oh, they had my chef here get the learn how to do medics.
I became an in-house nurse for 2 months.
Yeah, no, I did. The stitch there for a while there. I mean, I visited Don when he was in a couple of different closer facilities up here in the Phoenix area, and it was there was. I mean, I went in there because that's one time he had the staff, and I mean, his back was like filleted open, and there was tubes in him, and stuff was being drained out of him. I'm thinking, holy moly! It's kind of like going this, you know. That was actually kind of rough to kind of watch right there. So it's kind of going, but he's a trooper. I mean, it's kind of like going. I
Well,
get a hangnail, and I think I'm crying.
so the staph infections come from what? From grappling, dirty mats,
Yeah,
transfer of fluids. What
all
causes?
of all of those. I
Yeah,
mean,
because wrestling is really the only one. Boxers don't get it.
really, wow.
I don't think I've never known of any fighter to boxer to get
Well, they
staph.
don't spend a lot of time on the
Yeah.
mat. Yeah,
So
Yeah,
that's
no,
it.
again, well, that's where again, like you said, there's a stitch. I mean, on wrestling mats, you could get anything from ringworm to staph infections. It just all depends on how are you cleaning these mats, and the mats need to be cleaned after each practice.
every day.
And
Yeah,
yes,
sometimes I mean, after every
after every practice, they need to be cleaned. And again, it's kind of like going you really have to even like in heavy bags stuff like that. You got to wipe down the heavy bags because you got all these different guys that you don't know what they have, and they're holding on this bag, and they're working clinch work, and they're throwing 1-2 combination double forearm shivers, and then they're doing clinch work. You got to wipe all these bags
wiping their
down,
nose and hitting the
bags,
bag.
speed
Yeah.
bags.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they spit, they snot, I mean, yeah, it's not the cleanest thing.
Yeah, there's even like one other device is called a takedown machine. It's an amateur wrestling device that you use all type of shooting singles, high crotches, and double legs, and things of that nature onto it. But I used to use that as one of my training partners. I put on a pair of boxing gloves, and I would just beat this machine on up, and then I working from strikes to go into clinches, and then trying for throws and takedowns, and it's hard to do that with gloves on. But you know, you're not going to find a workout partner that wants you to do that to them. So it's kind of like the three devices I had that were best was a heavy bag, a throwing dummy, and this little takedown machine. I did things to them that I hoped I never had to do to an individual, but I was prepared because I had practiced it
What are we talking about
so
here,
many
Dan?
times previously. What's that?
So what exactly are we talking about here, Dan?
Well, again, so I was trying to see if I do any kind of striking here whatsoever, striking and things of nature, using using nice equipment instead of being mean to workout partners.
I mean, you're talking about doing things to this Matt. You didn't want to do to individuals. So I'm like, wait a second. What?
Oh, I see. You're going over to a dark, seedy area there, Mr. Fry. You're going over to this dark, seedy area right now. Okay.
Conversation.
Let's bring you back into focus here now. Yeah.
But then even also drying out, and I did a show with Frank Trigg in Japan. Day before the fight, he lost 18 pounds. Yeah. But I mean, for you guys, it's pretty normal. Well, I don't know if 18 is normal, but for losing a lot of weight is pretty common for wrestlers, right? And the thing about Trigg, he ended up winning the fight the next day, So I'm thinking, wow, man, he was literally just a sack of potatoes in the sauna, but we had to pull him out and take him to his room.
Did the other guy make weight?
Yeah, they fought. Yeah. Yeah, they fought. So
who won?
Trigg
All
won.
Right.
That was my concern, that if it's common for wrestlers to lose so much weight. See, I know nothing about wrestling, but I know that if you lose a lot of weight, it could be detrimental to your body. I don't know, but you guys have a system where it's done pretty regularly.
Yeah, routine.
Yeah. So, and another question I asked is how many times have you gone into a fight with some kind of injury, and it's probably high?
Partner, I'll tell you what. The only time I wasn't injured was when I fought in the UFC back in '96. After that, the best I ever was 65-70%. The best. Yeah. I mean, I've been down to where I was probably 10%. Or just the body walking in there. Yeah, barely walking too. But it's it's the job you chose, and you sign your name, and that's another thing about wrestling. Wrestlers, they have that obligation, and they do it. Because I mean, Dan, how many times you've been injured in wrestling?
No, again, it just get as like the Stitch as like Don talked about in amateur wrestling. You got your teammates, and you're at your weight class, and they're counting on you to walk out there. And there's a lot of times that you'd have your hand all bandaged on up because you stoked your thumb knuckle so bad that you got it all taped on up just so you kind of keep it in together, knowing that you can still hook their leg and things of that nature. But just like Don said, that to walk out there, even if you're not feeling good. You might have a cold or something like that, but it's kind of like going, you got to suck it up and walk on out there and do your match, because they're counting on you. You can't forfeit. Otherwise, your team loses 6 points, and that 6 points is a lot to make up in an amateur wrestling dual meet. So even Stitch, I've been on two ends of the coin. Early in my career, I was, as an amateur wrestler, one of my goals was I wanted to make varsity as a freshman, because no one had ever done that at my high school alma mater I went to. And I weighed 165 pounds, and I went down to 155 pounds. But as a freshman going up against sophomores, juniors, and seniors, that 1, 2, 3 years of physical maturity and the experience that they have, they destroyed me. So I challenged at my weight class. I went up to where the last weight class to challenge was the heavyweight. My coach probably should not have ever allowed the match because I'm literally wearing a 155-pound uniform.
Wow.
And the heavyweight was unlimited at that point in time. And our heavyweight probably weighed, I'll say, close to, I don't know, 280, something like that. But he wasn't exactly the most muscular type person, wasn't the most agile person. All I know is he tripped, fell down. I fell on top of him. I pinned him, and I won my contest of making varsity. But then fast forward to the end of the season, it boils down. We're at the conference championship. Boils down to the heavyweight match. If this other team's heavyweight can pin me, they win the championship. All I got to do is simply survive 6 minutes. And then Stitch, I counted those lights in that gymnasium probably 20 or 30 times over. That means he had me on my back and getting ready to pin me. I mean, literally, he broke me. I might have had 3 or 4 points that he gave me simply to try to hit me with another headlock and try to pin me, or lateral drop and try to pin me. And all I know is when the buzzer finally went off, my team was rejoicing. I mean, he beat me like 25-3 or something like that, because the tech fall it was not involved in the industry at that point in time. And my team was all cheering and stuff like this, and they're gathering around me, and I felt like Gumby. I was so broken. And as they're all on the mats cheering that they had just won, I mean, I'm back around the bleacher right there, because I'm actually kind of crying because I was broken. I mean, literally, I was broken. I was so destroyed, and I'm thinking to myself, I'll be back and I'll be better than what I was. But it's like my whole job was to walk out there and not get pinned. So it's like going, that's not exactly what I call a luxurious career. So I told people I've been on both sides of the coin, to where my goal was simply just to walk out there and not get pinned, but get physically destroyed in the process.
And I have you have to go through those changes to understand, so yeah.
Stitch, what do you got coming up? What's some of the things that's coming up for you?
I leave tomorrow to Houston. I'm working the zone boxing, Shane Mosley Jr. And then the week after, I'll be in Florida for boxing again with a Cuban champion, Robesi. And then I have Christmas off. And then I'll spend the end of the year. I have a boxing show in Tokyo on New Year's Eve with Kazuto Ayoka. And you guys know in Japan, they always have a big MMA show, a big kickboxing show, and a big boxing show. I've been there for all 3 of them. So I've been in Tokyo like 10 times for New Year's, and my birthday's on the 29th. So I spend it up there with, and we were talking about, being away from family and all that. That's pretty much what we do. So I've been blessed. I'm dealing with a cut cream, CBD cut cream that I've used with fighters that works great. And then the people that are going to help us distribute it, they're a very high-end cannabis company, and I'll let you guys know now, is looking in the new year, we might be having Stitch Premium cannabis products, and so that's in the works. And there's a tequila company that wants to use my image, and so on. And so I've been okay. I've been blessed. Movies.
No, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, if people want to get in contact with you, I mean, if there's someone that they have to watch this episode and they want to get in contact with you for possible sponsorships or maybe a business opportunity, something like that, where's a good way for people to contact you?
Contact me, and I'll get hold of him for you.
Hey, be my agent. Hey, that's be my agent, bro. I'll give you.
I'll fill it in. I'll
I'll give you 10%, bro. We'll sell that right now. At Stitch Duran, like say we were going, and Don, let me ask you, do you know my first name, my real name?
Yeah, I do. I did. Fuck, but I forgot it.
Nobody knows.
No, I knew that because we were talking about it. We were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said, because I said that's going to be the very first question. I go, as I do the introduction, I would go, who the heck's Jacob Duran? I said, I don't know Jacob Duran. I know Stitch Duran.
So that's the part, man. That's a good thing, So, so I've been blessed. I've been taking advantage of these opportunities, and representing myself, and so I just keep going forward and taking care of fighters. Bottom line is my legacy, you guys, is when I leave this game, is that I made this game a lot safer for the fighters, and by educating and going forward.
Yeah, I'm gonna say because I know in the UFC, I'm pretty certain that you had a couple of different times that you were in there, taking care of me and stuff like that. So,
So, yeah, it's been a blessing, and I'm just warming up, just keep getting better and better. And, I've been involved in 7 movies, and I'm getting a pension from them now. And
Yeah.
I know this much about acting, but I've been in some great movies, 3 with Rocky and 3 with Michael B. Jordan, and Boss Rutan, Here Comes the Boom with Kevin James, and Antonio.
Oh, what a character he is! Though. I mean, you talk about someone that's full of energy, Boss Rutan. Oh my God, it's kind of like going, what kind of energy drink are you on there, boss?
Hey, man, listen, we filmed in Lowell, Massachusetts for Here Comes the Boom with Kevin James, right?
Yeah.
And Boss was there for like 3 months, so he had his Porsche was sent to him, so he could go from Boston to Lowell, which is about 40 minutes. How I would drive with him, and it's raining, and it's wintertime, and music is jamming, and he's driving like a bat out of hell, and I'm buckled up, and I'm thinking to myself, well, Boss has always been crazy, and he's still alive, so I got to go with his faith that he's going to take care of me. And yeah, man, we're best of friends. I just got a message from him the other day that a friend of the doctor that works with him, the guy wants to be a cutman, so Boss touched base with me.
Nice. No, that again, that was a great movie. I mean, it's comical,
Yeah.
but it was a good storyline though with all aspects of it right there. So, no, it was a good movie to watch. A feel good movie.
Yeah, that was fun. And just real quick before we go is, residuals. When you have lines, you get residuals, and that's where the money comes. Well, and Here Comes the Boom, I didn't have no lines, and I'm thinking, man, I got to say something. But when it was time for me and Kevin James to do our scene, he pulls me aside and he says, Stitch, we got to have you say something. And I play the dumb part. I said, well, I always tell the guys, welcome to the UFC. Oh, yeah, let's do that. So they call me in, and boom, I'm working on him. And now, Stitch, I can't believe you're working on me. Big fan, so-and-so. And I'm working on him. Finally, at the end, I slap him. Boom. Well, welcome to the UFC. And I walk off. Nobody knew I was going to slap him. Everybody started laughing. And that part is in the movie. And that's what I call my $1 million line.
Wow. Nice.
Welcome to the UFC. Yeah.
Nah, all good. Well, I mean, Don, you got any other questions? I'm trying to be respectful for Stitch's time here right now, but
I screwed it up, man. I apologize.
No. All is good. I mean, like I said, Stitch and I we're having a good conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And went over some good stuff right there. But again, just to let people know, you said that the best way of contact you is at Stitch Duran.
At Stitch Duran, yes.
Okay.
And I always return phone calls or messages. And, to me, it's disrespectful when you don't return somebody. Little things make a big difference.
Right.
And
yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I'd say that's part of that old school mentality right there. I mean, there's a lot of people now that they don't return phone calls, especially this younger. It's hard to actually get them to even look at you because they're always looking at this little device all the time. I mean, you see them walk down the sidewalk and they walk right into a post or something like that because they're so glued to the all-knowing, the all-be, and that little square box. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan always returns all the phone calls, but it's always collect. So
collect. You know Don's old school when you throw the word out collect. You go nobody knows what that means.
That gives me a lot of hard time there, but I'm the only guy that wears a fanny pack that he goes, if it ever was be unzipped, he'd see moths fly out of it because that get open too often.
Oh, the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but as we stated earlier, it's kind of knowing good that you don't have to worry about anything. You're good to go in life, and that's a good feeling to have. And on that note, there, gentlemen, I simply shall bid you both adieu because I have to scamper on off there. If you guys want to chat a little bit more, please do it. But Stitch, really wonderful to get a chance to reconnect there with you and just to find out what you're doing and all the wonderful projects that you're still involved in. So I'll simply bid you guys adieu. And you guys, if you want to chit chat a little bit more.
Your kitchen pass getting rescinded?
Well, I have I have to meet the better half at a restaurant. And I told her I would be very good about trying to stay on time just so I can get on there. I tried to, I might be a tough man there, but why does the better half make me cry there, Stitch? I don't understand that.
Listen, I tell people all over the world I'm known as Stitch. I come home, I'm Jacob. So I'm hey, we all understand you can be the baddest man on the planet till you get home. And then mama kind of reigns. So
yes, exactly.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for having me on, you guys.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Don, we'll do it again. And
Yes, sir.
Dan, appreciate you guys. And anytime, man, let's do it again.
Gracias.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. God bless.
Thank you for watching another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity. You better like, subscribe, and share, or I'm going to come to your house.